the people that, or some of you may have been in the situation where you used to do this and then now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided you and things of that sort. When you used to date, that's hell. That's torture. Right? You invest yourself emotionally into something. You tell someone all of your secrets and then all of that falls apart and then you go, it's like a roller coaster. Next person. Right? You go through that, you experience the joys, you think that this is the right person, and then boom, that's done too. And you keep going and going and going and going, and then once you get married, what makes you think that you're going to be able to have a happy marriage? You're already used to relationship failure. You've already been with different people, so you'll get sick of your spouse very, very, very quickly. And then you say, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing this to me? Right? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me in an unhappy relationship? Think about that. It's now flawed. Right? And at that point, let me tell you what happens. And this happens in MSAs or ISOCs or whatever it is, in different college organizations, different Islamic organizations. People have gotten to know one another. Then, Sheikh, I want to marry her. Why do you want to marry her? Because she's religious. Okay. Why is she religious? Because at that point, your decision making is flawed. Do you know why? Because everything she does at that point, or everything he does at that point, you're going to interpret it as being religious. Like, Sheikh, mashallah, she's so good, she prays. The other day I saw her driving and she was listening to Surah Al-Rahman. Oh, she's so good. Like you will force her to be religious, you will force him to be religious, even if they're not religious at that point. Why? Because you've already made up your mind. And your decision making is flawed at that point. Your decision making is flawed at that point. Right? So subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an opportunity. You pursue a person for deen, and you pursue them for khuluq, and you pursue them thinking, putting all of the factors into play, because this is an extremely important decision. Right? And you can imagine, subhanAllah, there's so much adab, so much punishment that comes from just continuous dating and testing the waters here and there. SubhanAllah, a lot of times He gives us وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. From the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who think and who contemplate, He created for you spouses from amongst yourselves. And here are the functions of a marriage. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. A second in the Arabic language is what? Your home. Right? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. You dwell with that person, you find comfort in that person. What are the functions of a home? Right? وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Mawadda is to want to please someone else. وَرَحْمَةً, and compassion and mercy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts these things between the spouses. Right? And they grow together. They learn about each other over time. And you know what? They're learning to love everything about each other, and they're looking at each other from the lens of deen and khuluq. So even when these superficial things start to fall apart, because guess what? If you're beautiful, you get older. Right? Whenever the beauty starts to fade away, if money fades away, right? If the money starts to go down the drain too, how many marriages fall apart because of financial troubles? Right? SubhanAllah, I was reading something in Newsweek, I remember, maybe a year ago, that was talking about the effect of the economic crisis on marriages. That marriage cannot stand on its 2 feet anymore. Why? Because the money's gone. Everything's falling apart. So the things of deen and khuluq aren't there to hold that marriage. Right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us those things. You make that the basis. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُمْ. They are a garment for you, and you are a garment for them. So essentially, whenever I go looking for a person, I'm looking for a person am I looking for a person who's less than me in deen, who I can correct and I can bring to my standard of deen? Like, yeah, she's really pretty and she has potential. Or he seems like a really good guy, he has potential. Do I look for someone who has potential? Do you walk into a supermarket and see a cloth, see a shirt that's hanging and say, this shirt has a lot of potential. If I take it home and I cut it up, no, if it's not ready for me, if it's not ready, if this is not the shirt that I'm going to be able to put on tomorrow and that's going to immediately beautify me, I don't want that shirt. Right? So, subhanAllah, I don't look for potential. I don't even look for someone who's just equal to me in deen. What do I look for? I look for someone who's better than me in deen, so that they can cover my faults and beautify me in those same spots where I know that I'm lacking. Right? I know that I can do better. Right? So I look for someone who's better in deen to make me that better person. Right? And khuluq, because khuluq is in the middle of the night. This is a two-way street. Remember? This is a two-way street. She wakes up in the middle of the night to pray. And she tries to wake up her husband to pray too. And if he refuses, she takes some water and she sprinkles it into his face, right? To wake him up, right? Two people that are growing in the deen together. Two people that are looking for something that cannot be given to them in this world, but they know is guaranteed. So long as the other person is capable of getting me closer to that goal, then that person is a valuable asset in my life. It's as simple as that. So long as I can see this person as someone who's bringing me closer to my goal, so if my goal is akhirah, then I need that person in my life. Right? SubhanAllah. You know, and once you start seeing marriage that way, rather than just, of course you started off with the right way, you start looking for deen and things of that sort, but as long as you see marriage in that way, rather than just a trial run, because in this day and age, honestly, you go into a marriage, and that possibility, that looming possibility that this might not be the right one, is always there, and that haunts you, and at the end of the day, it's almost like you have more than a 50% chance of getting divorced. Even in the Muslim community, by the way, divorce rates are going up. Why? Because they start for the wrong reasons. They're built upon faulty foundations, right? So they're not able to hold that pressure. They're not able to withstand it.
Don't be put down by people's pressure, by their peer pressure, that if you follow the sunnah, what's going to happen to you? What are people going to say? Don't worry about them. Because either you have to care for Allah, either you have to care for the creation. You can't care for both at the same time. If you please Allah, Allah will be pleased with you in the hereafter. You please the creation, they're not going to be pleased with you in the hereafter. Because shaitan's rule is that he makes a promise and he goes against it. Allah's rule is Allah makes a promise, he never goes against it. Right? So never be intimidated by people. Follow the sunnah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim siratal ladhina